I would feel sick to my stomach though, like waiting for the lineups to lock like that day, just like playing Freeman as your main running back, and then there he is in the flex, Tevin Coleman, just like all in on the Falcons today.
You're listening to Let's Talk Fantasy Football, where men of fantasy genius have realized, hey guys, we don't need real football skills to dominate on the fantasy field. Yeah. So slap on your pads and grab your helmet. Shit's about to get real.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Let's Talk Fantasy Football. I'm your host for tonight. My name's Nick Walsh, and I am here with my good friend, my regular co-host, my friend who I will be seeing again quite soon, which is very, very nice. I'm here with Vinny Gonzalez. Vinny, what's going on, man?
What's going on, Walsh? Yes, we get to see each other as soon as this time next week. Nah, maybe a few more days, but yeah, we got our destination draft all lined up.
Yeah, it's a wonderful time of year. We're getting into drafts. Vinny and I actually both have our first ones, unless you've done one already.
I have not. This will be tomorrow will be our first one. It's a 12-teamer, so that should be very exciting.
Yeah, tomorrow's our first one for, regular redraft leagues. We're pretty excited about it. Vinny's going to be there live. I'm going to be Skyping in like an asshole, but that's all right. That's what happens when your friends want to do live drafts and you live across the country. We're going to get into some stuff besides the nonsense that we've talked about so far in just a couple minutes. But first, guys, I want to give a big shout out to Vupiq. Vupiq is the revolutionary app that allows you to play fantasy football live while watching the game on TV. Predict the plays, the result of the play, and literally play fantasy football. You can sign up for the beta now by going to letstalkfantasyfootball.com/Vupiq, and that's VUPIQ. So, Vinny, we're going to get into a little bit of news, and then we got coming for you tonight. We got part one of our NFC South preview. We only got two divisions left. They'll be done before the season starts. We're doing the NFC South today. Tonight's going to be the Falcons and the Saints, which tons and tons of fantasy relevance between those two teams. And then Bucks Panthers will be our next podcast, so keep an eye out for that as well. But before we get into any of that, gotta let you guys know, first of all, today, not the day you're listening to this because it'll come out later, but today, at the time that we're recording this, if you are on our Let's Talk Fantasy Football email list, you received our 2017 draft guide. Vinny, have you had a chance to check out the draft guide?
Yes, it's awesome. So we laid it all out. Shrek did lots of the work on it, which is awesome. Shrek, very devoted dude to get it out there, and it's very in-depth analysis of a 12-team mock. Even if you don't have 12-team, it's very important to see where guys are going. Check out the strategies that we did. We go pretty in-depth with it, so go out and check that. I think all you have to do is put in your email when you go to the site, and then it's yours for free.
Exactly. So our draft guide is available. If you're not already on our email list, go to letstalkfantasyfootball.com, sign up for the email list. It's 29 pages, full color PDF sent directly to your inbox. You can download it. You can look at it online, whatever you want to do. A lot of really good information in there. Make sure you check it out. Also, guys, the Let's Talk Fantasy Football app is available on Android and iOS. Again, that's letstalkfantasyfootball.com/Apple and letstalkfantasyfootball.com/Android. And you can also use the Let's Talk Fantasy Football app in conjunction with Alexa or your Amazon Echo if you do have such a thing. Vinny, let's get right into the news. We've got some, I guess no real blockbuster pieces of news here, but important nonetheless. The first one we've got here is DeShone Kizer is starting the third preseason game for the Browns. The third preseason game most of the time looked at as the dress rehearsal for most teams. So they're going with Kizer over Brock Osweiler. They've apparently tried to shop Osweiler, but no one wants him because of his contract. What do you think about Kizer there? Does that make you more or less excited for this team?
I don't know. It's lateral for me. I don't really care one way or the other. All I want is stable quarterback play, like the same guy all season. That's really all I want. Because and I know Kaiser's a rookie, so he has a chance to grow, but also a big chance to completely suck. So, But I mean, you feel like you could say the same thing about Brock Osweiler and company there. So I just really want the one guy there the entire time. Give us some stable things to work with, so we know what the outlook is going to be for 2017, really. So it's really it's still all the same to me. I just want one guy there.
That's very fair. And I think if they give the reins to Kaiser, this early, I feel like they will stick with him for the season, just because why would you bench your rookie quarterback that you want to develop in a season that doesn't matter, unless he's just like taking huge hits the whole year or whatever. But I like Kaiser. I think he's an interesting guy. He's got a little bit of mobility, which makes the run game a little bit more interesting. We'll see how it plays out. The other news within that same vein is that Chad Henne started the third preseason game for the Jaguars over Blake Bortles, who has just looked absolutely terrible. He went 8 for 14 for 73 yards. By all accounts, didn't really do anything that would make you say, hey, that guy's the starter. But for now, it looks like he's the starter. All right, does that make you hotter or cooler, or again, lateral movement on the Jaguars?
It's hard to figure out, because I feel like the upside is with Bortles when you have like a guy like Allen Robinson, because Bortles can at least chuck it to him. Chad Henne might be playing the kind of safe kind of quarterback role that we've seen and leaning more on the run game. So I think I'm a little like I've cooled off on a few guys, because I think Bortles really brought the garbage time aspect to it. So Chad Henne really can't sling it as much as Bortles can. So I'm a little cooled on like guys like Allen Robinson, and that's pretty much it. That's like I feel like I'm the same on like Fournette and the whole backfield situation there.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. For what it's worth, Robinson did catch a touchdown in this game, as did Julius Thomas, the preseason game, obviously. I don't know if that actually means anything, but yeah, I think it's a relatively lateral movement, because I wasn't expecting much out of Bortles anyway, but we knew he could throw the ball around in garbage time and do that. So moving on from those quarterbacks, over in Philly, we've got Wendell Smallwood and LeGarrette Blount splitting first-team reps. It's worth noting that Darren Sproles is not playing in the preseason. They're treating him with a lot of caution, but it is expected that he will be, a full go at the start of the season. To me, this means Darren Sproles is the guy to own there. What does it mean to you?
I'm super nervous about Blount now. As you've noticed, I've been pretty much all in on him throughout the preseason, but the last couple weeks have been super bad for Blount. Rumors of getting cut, probably not, but still he's splitting reps now with Wendell Smallwood. So I've kind of backed off him a little bit. I'll see what I do in drafts, like for real, but I'm not loving what I'm seeing. But I agree with what you're saying with Darren Sproles, because they're taking him out just because he's an old guy and they don't want him to get hurt, but he is going to be their 3-down back, and he always factors in at least 8 to 10 touches a game. So Darren Sproles is looking like a nice flyer pick later on.
Yeah, very much so. And then Smallwood, not being drafted really right now, but maybe he's worth a look at the end. We'll see. In other running back news, it looks like Tariq or Tariq, I don't know how he specifically pronounces it, but either way, Tariq Cohen, the rookie there, is looking like he may be the number 2 back. He's gotten 11 carries for 70 yards, I believe, in their last game, and really seemed to impress people. So, those of you who are taking Jordan Howard in the first or second round of the draft, maybe something to keep an eye on there.
Yeah, I'm kind of shying away from Jordan Howard. I was very high. Another guy I was very high on to start the season, and just kind of cooled off on him for reasons that are. I think Don pointed out, John Fox is just kind of a dick and kind of playing like his Belichick game in the backfield. So the preseason that Cohen's having is kind of like the one, well, not like the start of the season that Jordan Howard had, and they had no problem just giving him the starting role. So if Jordan Howard is bad or Cohen earns more work, it's going to be a mess to handle out throughout the season, especially for a first or second round pick.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then again, going back to some running backs, this is a really interesting one for me. Lance Dunbar for the Rams, who is signed to be their third down, their change of pace, their passing down back, going to start the season on the PUP list, so he's going to miss at least 6 games. I don't know about you. This is making me really kind of come around on Todd Gurley, who wasn't a guy who I was drafting at all, really. But, if he's going to be a 3-down back in this offense that looks way better in the preseason than it did last year, new coaching staff with Sean McVay, who's known to be a good offensive mind. I'm coming around on Gurley because of this Lance Dunbar news. What do you think there?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. The problem with Gurley was like he didn't really factor into the passing game, but last year did a little bit work into the rotation for it. So with this news, maybe all those rumors and offseason stuff that they want to get him involved in the passing game are true, because they kind of have to be when your passing back is out on the PUP list. So I do like Gurley's upside, at least for the beginning of the season. So if you're taking that risk, at least it'll pay off in the beginning for the first 6 games. So I do like Gurley. I think I'm going to bump him up a few spots probably and put more faith into the fact that he'll have a bounce back year in 2017. So I'm definitely liking it.
I think I've moved Gurley ahead of Jordan Howard in my rankings, which I didn't expect to do this year. But we'll see where it goes. And then the last piece of news here, not terribly important, but it is if you're drafting Le'Veon Bell. Fitzgerald Toussaint right now, not James Conner, who everyone assumed would be the Steelers' handcuff. Fitzgerald Toussaint still ahead of Conner on the depth chart, still getting that work with the first team while Bell is holding out at the moment. Not too much really outside of that.
Yeah, just I guess if you're lucky enough to draft closer and closer to the season, that depth chart will shake out. So really that's all I got on it. You just have to make sure everything's all in line with the depth chart if you're going to handcuff Bell.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, man, let's get right into the Atlanta Falcons. One thing that I thought was interesting, and I'm not sure there is another division like this, is that the NFC South, all 4 quarterbacks are going in the top 12 quarterback spots. So if you are in a 12-team league, it is likely that all of the quarterbacks that we're going to talk about tonight and in our next podcast will be playing week 1 for a team in your league, which is interesting. There's a lot of fantasy goodness to go around within this division. So onto the Falcons. Kyle Shanahan's gone. A lot of people considered him to be the mastermind behind their incredible year last year. They just had a year beyond the expectations of that almost anyone could have had. So maybe there's some regression in that. Maybe there's some regression with Kyle Shanahan leaving. We'll jump right into Matt Ryan, who is going 6.01. Yeah.
Yep.
That's quarterback number 4 too. So right after Brady, Breeze, and Rodgers. What do you think about Matt Ryan going there, and what do you think about his outlook for this season?
I mean, I like Matt Ryan and all. It's just I'm a big believer in Shanahan was kind of behind all that, and the regression that Matt Ryan is probably his normal stats, which aren't too great, finishing outside of like the top 15 the last couple of years for fantasy. So I'm not really about that. He had just like insane stats, like almost 70% completion rate, 38 touchdowns, only 7 picks. It's just too good to duplicate that. And I feel like that's where people are taking him right after the elite quarterbacks. So he's kind of on the fringe of the elite quarterbacks and the mid-range guys, and you're paying a high price for him. So that kind of immediately backs me off him. I still think he'll have a good year. It's just not going to be 4th quarterback off the board here.
Yeah, he's being way overdrafted. If you do have the draft guide, or if you've looked at it, I took him on one team, but I believe it was in the 11th round, and I believe he went quarterback 8 or 9. So, I mean, like, that's kind of where I was valuing him. And again, he's going quarterback 4 at the start of the 6th round. For a little bit of context regarding Matt Ryan and his year last year was the first time in his 9-year NFL career that he finished better than quarterback 7 and, fantasy quarterback 7. And he's being drafted as the quarterback 4. That doesn't gel for me, particularly with the coach who made that transformation leaving. I don't think he's worth it at all there. But if he falls, he's a viable guy in, the 9th, 10th, 11th round.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point about our draft, that's like completely on us. That's how we draft. So obviously, if you're listening, your team or your league could be totally different than ours. And we don't really value quarterback being taken high. So that's why Walsh was able to snag him in the 11th, which is like our own corrected, just where we value him. So that just worked out for him.
Don't be the guy to overdraft Matt Ryan in your league on draft day. Let's talk about his pass catchers. Obviously, we've got Julio Jones going 5th pick of the first round. That's wide receiver number 3 behind Antonio Brown and Odell Beckham Jr. Do you, one, think this is a fair tier for him? And what do you think of him in terms of that top 3 or top 4? Do you think he's fair as the number 3, or do you want him higher or lower?
No, I think he's right where he should be. I think he actually, you said he was behind Odell?
Yeah, he's going behind Odell right now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think with the news that, obviously Odell is shooken up and stuff like that. So I'm pretty much moving Julio into that spot ahead of him. And I think it's completely justified because when you look at his effectiveness last year, it was a little hot and cold with Julio. But I think this is the only guy on the Falcons where Shanahan leaving is a positive. I think they're just going to be like, Julio is the guy. We're going to target him so much in this offense. So we're going to throw him the ball constantly. The rumored red zone work that Julio Jones season is always overhyped. So the touchdowns might not be there for him. For some reason, they don't target him in the red zone all that often, but he is absolutely top 3 wide receiver in the NFL, top 3 for fantasy for sure. And I think his targets will increase from the 129 that he had last year, where he wasn't really the focal point of the offense. They used everybody and spread it out, and he still had over 1,400 yards. So big things for Julio, and with Odell with that injury, I'm just bumping him up that much more.
Yeah, he's my wide receiver 2 as well. Fun fact about Julio, he is the all-time NFL leader in receiving yards per game at 96.3 yards per game. That's incredible. Worth your number 2 pick there. You're right. It's hard to buy into the hype. I mean, you feel like they have to give him more red zone targets than last year, right? He only got 11 targets in the red zone, which was only 11.22% of the team's red zone targets. Julio should be getting 20% or greater of a team's red zone targets. That's just the way it is. And the new offensive coordinator, Steve Sarkisian, he stated that he does want to give him more red zone targets. We'll see how that plays out. I'm going to buy that there's an increase because only 11 red zone targets for that guy is completely insane. So I'm going to buy into a little bit of a touchdown increase for Julio. And that's where kind of some of his inconsistency came in, was he just wasn't getting those touchdowns. So I'm all in on Julio. I think he should be the number 2 receiver off the board behind Antonio Brown. Outside of him, you have Taylor Gabriel going 12.06, wide receiver 56, and then Mohamed Sanu 14.06, wide receiver 66. Are you interested in either of those guys?
No. It's interesting that Sanu is going after Gabriel. I feel like Gabriel is kind of dependent on the big play. Yeah. So I'm not really all about the boom and bust guys, and I feel like Sanu could possibly get more targets playing and opposite Julio Jones, like as a real 2, where they might have to change from that, amazing Shanahan offense. So he might see his targets increase. Just something to note. It could be worth a flyer because the offense is going to change to some extent. So I do like Sanu more so in that offense, like as another option for a later flyer.
Yeah, Gabriel's getting drafted earlier because he had that nice weeks 8 through 16 or whatever, where he was just basically getting big plays every week. And that's fine. I don't really want to bet on a guy who's on the field for 50% of the snaps. I would really switch their draft position. I would take Gabriel in the last or second to last round. That kind of thing is just a dart throw. Sanu last year, week 1 was great, if you remember correctly. And then he fell off and apparently he was injured. I believe he had a foot injury most of the year. He's healthy now. We'll see what he can really do. He hasn't really shown himself to be consistent, but he should probably be drafted by someone in your league. Behind him, they have Justin Hardy. He's not going to matter barring any sorts of injuries. And then at tight end, we've got my boy Austin Hooper. I don't know exactly your opinion on Hooper, but I'm interested. Tell me what you think about this guy.
So last year during the games where he was healthy, he was fucking great. So my eye was on him immediately, and I just started to think, how is this guy going to handle a full season being healthy? And I think Tammy is gone.
Tammy is gone.
Right? Yes, Tammy is gone. So it's going to be Austin Hooper's job. I think who else is behind him? Levi Toilolo is there. Yeah, he might steal he might steal a stupid red zone touchdown here and there, but I'm really liking Austin Hooper. He's the guy that we this is the epitome of a late round tight end that we fucking love on this podcast.
Yes.
He is free. He is in a dynamic offense. He is awesome. They're going to target him in the red zone. He has everything you want, and no one is talking about him really. So he's going super late. You get him for free. It's awesome. I'm all in on Hooper.
Yeah, same. I didn't mention his exact spot. He's going 13.04. That's tight end 15. Probably my favorite late end tight end to target outside of maybe Ebron. One thing that's, bodes very well for him is that he graded out as a solid blocker by Pro Football Focus's grades. That's something that'll keep you on the field. He was a very efficient pass catcher, made the most of his targets, as did really everyone in that offense because the whole offense was so efficient. So maybe that'll regress a little bit, but that he's just going to see so many more targets than last year. If you can get Austin Hooper getting 6 to 7 targets a game, you're looking at a starting caliber fantasy tight end for the entire year. I'm all about Austin Hooper, just like you.
I see we're going to have a showdown during our real draft.
Between whichever one of us doesn't get Ebron is going to just take Austin Hooper. That's probably legitimately how that's going to end up. Or someone will take one of the two and we'll just get really, really mad because we'll be really drunk because it'll be the end of the draft.
Oh God, I'll have to start Jared Cook.
No, not Jared Cook. All right, so let's get into this Atlanta backfield because there's a lot of information to get through. We've got Devontae Freeman going 1.08. That is running back number 4. Yeah, I guess he's going ahead of Gordon, isn't he?
Oh, yes.
Oof.
I think he should, man.
Okay.
I know. I wanted to get your opinion on because I know you have yelled at me in the few mocks that we've done. I've taken Freeman, and you've been very upset. Yeah, I just want to know why. To my own detriment, I've been low on Devontae Freeman for his entire career, and it's definitely been to my own detriment. That being said, am I.
Yeah, he was PPR running back 6 last year. I don't see him doing better than that this year, and he's going as running back 4 because I don't think the offense is going to be better. It's just I don't see where he gets any better. Like I just don't see how he gets better than they did last year in this historic season for the Falcons offense, unless Tevin Coleman is hurt for like the whole year. Because Tevin Coleman is going to get 10 to 12 touches per game. Like that's going to be a thing, whether it's carries or catches out of the backfield. I know Freeman gets the red zone carries. He got 64% of the red zone attempts last year, which was 53 red zone attempts. That's another thing. I don't know if he's going to get 53 red zone attempts, even if he still gets 64% of those, because I don't think they're going to be in the red zone as much. Their offense was like historically efficient last year. I don't see him being better than last year. And for a guy who was PPR running back number 6 last year, I don't see why I won't want to take him higher than that when I don't think he's going to be better.
See, here's the thing. I'm thinking, again, when I said only Julio benefits from Shanahan leaving, I'm starting to think that Freeman too will benefit from this because maybe they can go back to the one-back system. They just paid him a shitload of money in the 5-year contract. So I'm thinking they make him the main guy. I know Tevin Coleman he's able to like make big plays and they want to get him some touches. You said he'll probably average around 8, which is fine, but Freeman is their guy like for the foreseeable future. And he's great. And he's going to get above 200 carries for sure. How many times have we seen him break long runs? He's still involved in the passing game. He'll probably get around somewhere in the 60 target realm, I'm thinking again still. So I'm really liking his ceiling as opposed to guys like Gordon, just because I believe in Freeman now. Like I've been wrong on him so many years in a row, which is I think 2 or 3. And I'm just like, okay, you know what? He's fucking good. Why am I fighting this? It's kind of like the Doug Baldwin thing that we're both super late on.
Right.
I'm just coming around to him a little bit earlier. And I'm just starting to see like Freeman is one of the elite backs in the NFL.
I'm going to keep fighting it. I'm going to fight the good fight, and we can agree to disagree on this one.
Sure, man. Fine.
I don't think I'll be owning Devontae Freeman, but that's all right. Let's talk about Tevin Coleman, 7.02 running back 30. I love taking him there. Like I said, I think he's going to get that 8 to 12 touch per game type thing, and he has the big play potential. He's also great as a guy. Like if you went wide receiver early and maybe he's like the second running back on your roster, Like, he's a guy you can start weekly with those 8 to 12 touches because he has that potential for big plays. And then if Freeman gets hurt, you've got yourself like a top 10 running back, arguably, at least top 15 in terms of fantasy production for the rest of the year. So I think he's a very good value where he's going. I'd be willing to reach up into the 6th round to take him.
Yeah, I think his value is completely dependent on like what happens with Freeman. I just think his touchdown to carry ratio was like extremely off, and that's thanks to last year and their dynamic offense. So
that's very true as well.
He had 8 touchdowns off only 118 carries. So that's fucked up. That's not going to happen again. I mean, he is very dynamic, but I just don't foresee that happening. So I think where he's going is completely fine. I'm not a huge Tevin Coleman guy, but I don't blame you if you take him in the 7th. I wouldn't reach on him or anything like that. I think he's a very valuable handcuff. It's just a little expensive for me with like if you get Freeman, it's pretty expensive in the 7th round. How do you feel about the handcuffing him idea?
I don't know if I would do that just because I wouldn't want to spend a 1st and 7th round pick to lock up that. But I mean, it's not the worst idea in the world. I could see if he falls to the 8th, maybe going for it. I don't think I would worry about it too much as a Freeman owner. But it is an interesting strategy. It's, I wouldn't kill someone for it. I wouldn't be like, that's the stupidest thing you've ever done.
Yeah, it's fair. It's completely fair, I think. And if you're a complete psychopath, you could possibly play both of them at the same time on any given week.
That's true. I mean, like Coleman could be like on a bye week, like, if you did have both of them, like Coleman could totally, be like a flex fill-in on that bye week or something like that with Devontae Freeman as your RB1. And it would probably work out depending on the matchup.
I would feel sick to my stomach, though, like waiting for the lineups to lock like that day, just like playing Freeman as your main running back. And then there he is in the flex, Tevin Coleman, just like all in on the Falcons today.
Oh, yeah, for sure. That would be – and then, of course, if you did that, Teron Ward would end up with 2 touchdowns somehow out of the backfield, like when Don played Forte and Langford, and then Kadeem Carey had 2 touchdowns.
That's what I was trying to think of. I'm like, who did Don? That sounds like something Don did.
Yeah, no, totally. That was like one of the funniest things, and we've brought it up on the podcast many times. But if you haven't heard it before, Don at one point played Matt Forte and Jeremy Langford in that season where they were both playing well for the Bears. And it was the game that Kadeem Carey got 2 rushing touchdowns. And it was so funny.
And it's still funny now.
Oh, yeah. Still makes me crack up constantly. Yeah, good times. I think that's going to do it for the Falcons. Do you have anything else on them?
Yeah, no, that is it for them.
All right, let's take a quick break to hear from Vupiq.
This year, dominate your friends with free play-by-play fantasy football from Vupiq. Vupiq is the first play-to-play fantasy football game where you crush your friends from the comfort of your own couch. For the first time in fantasy football, you must think like the players and coaches on the field as you predict the outcome of every play. Visit Vupiq.com, Vupiq.com, and sign up now for an invitation to beta test.
All right, guys, we are back, and we're ready to roll on into the New Orleans Saints, who have a bit of a new look, some new players, particularly in that backfield. And we'll get to all of that in due time, but we're going to start with 38-year-old quarterback Drew Brees. Drew Brees is currently going quarterback 3, 4.09. He is only behind Rodgers and Brady. I think that makes sense. I don't go quarterback early much, but I mean, he should be quarterback 3, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And Brees is the guy that I feel like tempts guys like us, like, because it's Drew Brees and you get the elite talent, possibly, I mean, usually a top 5 quarterback no matter what, and then possibly top 3 if he has like a fantastic season. So I usually get tempted to take Brees because if I like the way my team looks and like he's sliding towards the end of the 4th or into the 5th, I'm just like, oh, I would love to own Drew Brees, but that's not what I do.
Yeah, I think that's fair. If I came around to like the late 5th and he was there, I would definitely consider it, but I don't know if I would pull the trigger. But yeah, he should absolutely be quarterback 3. There's no reason for him not to be. Let's talk about his pass catching options. We have Starting with Michael Thomas, who is currently going first pick of the second round. That is wide receiver 7. Thomas was great last year. He got 121 targets. He led the team in red zone targets, and I believe in receiving touchdowns. He was a consistent starting wide receiver for you week in, week out. 2 questions for you. 1, do you think he's worth his draft slot? And then 2, do you think he increases in targets this year with, Brandon Cooks leaving and that sort of thing? Or do you think he kind of hovers around that 120 area?
I think he has room to get like max 140, and then his floor is probably the 120. So I like that, and I think it justifies his price. So I don't really think his role changes so much with Cooks gone. I mean, they're missing a huge hole in their offense with like the dynamic shit that he brought. But Michael Thomas proved to be like a true one. And what's his name? He was like the consistent guy for Drew Brees. Marcus Colston. He kind of he completely fills that role for Brees. Posted huge numbers. So I'm really liking Thomas. It's that guy that you don't want to take, but it makes so much sense. Like he's now their new one. And I love Michael Thomas. It is one of the riskier picks early on, but I see no reason for it not to work out for people there.
That's fair. I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit, just because the number 1 target in the Saints offense historically hasn't gotten more than 20% of the targets. Drew Brees is a guy who spreads the ball around a lot. There's only 2 guys during Brees' tenure who have gotten more than 20%, and it's Colston and it's Jimmy Graham. So Michael Thomas could easily be in that company and break that 20% margin, but historically the Saints haven't done it much. Also, I think there's a chance that with them bringing in Adrian Peterson, drafting Alvin Kamara, still having Mark Ingram there, I think there's a chance they pass less than last year, in which case the passing volume goes down as a whole. And maybe Michael Thomas doesn't increase his targets. Maybe he sticks around that 115 to 120 type area, which is fine. But I don't know if it justifies that wide receiver 7 price. I'm still buying into him. I was kind of bringing up those stats to show that there is somewhat of a downside or a risk there. But yeah. And he's the number 1 guy there, and teams know that, so they're going to be game planning for him a little bit more. That make a difference. I don't love drafting Michael Thomas, but I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I just view him as their absolute number 1, and I feel like he is their main option. I mean, they brought in Ted Ginn. Willie Snead is still great in the slot. Sometimes they move him outside. I feel like they have enough weapons. AP maybe makes the defense more scared about the run at some point. I don't know. But I just really like what Michael Thomas did last year. He went up as the wide receiver 7. He won a lot of people their leagues and really drew some eyes on him. So I guess that comes to your point, like defenses will be ready to plan for him. But I do think Michael Thomas is a fantastic guy to own.
Fair enough. Let's move on to the aforementioned Willie Snead. He is wide receiver 31, 6th pick in the 6th round. What do you think about that value there?
I think it's great. I mean, I got him last year around that area, and I was taking him banking on a breakout, and that didn't happen. That went more Michael Thomas's way, obviously. But the thing factored in with Willie Snead's price is people might overdraft him this year because last year he showed he can get it done again, and people are like, oh, Cooks is gone, targets increase. I don't really see that happening, and I kind of value Willie Snead the same way I did last year. Potential for a breakout, but probably not. I feel like he stays on the same plane because he's basically working in and out of the slot often and not targeted like too much, probably sit around like 100 targets in that offense, which is still a lot for compared to most teams. But just Willie Snead, I see on this plane that he might not have a breakout season the way people will think he will. So I just think it's kind of that overhyped storyline of the offseason again. But he will still be very good.
Yeah, I think his upside is like low end wide receiver 2, if that makes sense. I don't see him getting much higher than that. Just as you said, the targets aren't going to be there for him to get much higher than that unless he just scores like an inordinate amount of touchdowns. So low end wide receiver 2, I think, is his upside. I like that price. I'm willing to buy him there. I just generally, I find myself drafting running backs around that area of the draft. So I don't end up with him too much, which is unfortunate because I do like him. And then lastly, we have Ted Ginn. Well, I guess they have Brandon Coleman too, but big who cares on that. Ted Ginn signed from the Panthers. He is currently wide receiver 57 going the end of the 12th round. I like him, and I've been talking about this. I talked about it in the draft guide, how a strategy that I've really kind of come around to because I think it makes sense is some of like your late round flyer wide receivers. I like it when they're deep threats because you're probably not going to play that guy often, if at all, right? So
yeah.
When you're going to play him, it's when you're like strapped on like a bye week or maybe like a couple like 1 week injuries or whatever. What's more likely? You take like, I don't know, like a Nelson Aguilar or like a Curtis Samuel who like maybe they'll get the targets eventually, or you take a Ted Ginn who can pay off for you in one catch, you know? So even like I like taking those guys as like desperation plays on bye weeks because you don't have to necessarily get an inordinate, a crazy amount of targets. You just have to get one play. So Ted Ginn is a late round flyer. I like basically. He's playing with the best quarterback of his career.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And to a lesser extent, he'll fill in Cooks' role. He'll go deep, like you said, pretty often, but won't have a huge explosive effect like Brandon Cooks did, obviously. So I do like what you're saying. He's a nice plug and play on bye weeks. Like you said, he can get you 10 points in one play. So I do like that.
Absolutely. And then at tight end, Kobe Fleener and Josh Hill are there. Kobe Fleener is tight end 16, 13.07. I don't fucking want him.
Yeah, but you took him last year.
Yeah, that's why I don't fucking want him this year.
See, he's the guy where Ebron's gone, fucking Austin Hooper's gone, some other dudes are gone. I'm just like totally panicking. I'm like, fuck, I guess I'll take Kobe Fleener. Sure. Because he's still in the Saints offense, like whatever. If it doesn't work out, you fucking cut him. You pick up like Charles Clay who catches a touchdown 2 weeks in a row. It's not a big deal. If you're taking Kobe Fleener, you know what to expect now since he had the bum year on a hyped year. So he's at the bottom of the barrel where he should be. And I kind of like him as like a fucking just whatever tight end.
He's an extremely mediocre football player who's going to get 50% of the snaps in a really good offense. That's all I can really say about him. If that floats your boat, fucking go for it.
I would love to hear 2016 Walsh talking about Kobe Fleener compared to what you just said.
Dude, 2016 Walsh had like flowers in his eyes when he was talking about Kobe Fleener. He was levitating a little bit. Jeez, man. What a difference a fucking year makes.
I recall you he was really fucking bad. I recall you, I think it was a quote from someone else, but he could roll out of bed and have a top 5 tight end season.
Right.
That completely stuck with me. And then like as the season went on, like Walsh won.
Oh yeah, dude. He could have rolled out of bed and he didn't. Like he stayed in bed and had that terrible season, but whatever. All right, let's move on to the running game, which we haven't talked about yet. So we'll start with Mark Ingram. Ingram and Peterson are going around the same area right now. Ingram is 6.01. He's the running back 26. Peterson is 6.07, running back 28. For perspective, Alvin Kamara, their rookie, is also going 13.06, running back 57. Talk to me about Ingram and Peterson. Do you like both, neither, either? What's your situation there?
I'm definitely liking Ingram more so than Peterson. Me too. I know they fucking hate him. Like Sean Payton just doesn't give him enough work. He finally goes over 1,000 yards. Mark Ingram is a fantastic running back. All they need to do is just let him go to work. So he got over, or he had 205 carries last year. If the rumors are true and they want to run it more, Ingram is definitely going to have the lion's share this year. I don't buy into the Peterson hype. He's fucking 32, 31. Doesn't matter. Like he's above. Yeah, he's older than 30. He had the worst year ever last year. I don't care if he only played 2 games. His average yards per carry were fucking terrible. It was 1.9. I'm not buying into Peterson. I would hate to have some stock in him going into the season. So I'm all about Ingram. He's so much better as a running back right now. And then Kamara Alvin, I'm not too worried about him. I just don't see in a backfield where you do have Mark Ingram and Peterson as your options that he'll garner any sort of value where you feel comfortable playing him at any given week. That's
fair. I'm right with you on Ingram. It's insanely surprising, but Ingram was PPR running back 8 last year. That's not a terrible year. I know they brought in Peterson and that should drop him down, but I feel like it's being priced in too much. Ingram's still going to get about 60 targets in the passing game. He's still going to get the bulk of the carries. Maybe he won't get that red zone work. Maybe Peterson will. But this is a guy who's going to have value because of those 60 targets. And just because of the fact that he's good and that offensive line is good. So I like Ingram a lot. I would take him earlier than that running back 26 type of range. He's another guy, like I was saying with Tevin Coleman, where because I go wide receiver heavy so early, he's a guy that I'm looking at potentially as like my first or second running back in the 5th or 6th round. So love Ingram, going to draft him and going to keep drafting him. Peterson, I think I'm going to stay away. He is playing with a much better offensive line, and the Vikings offensive line was absolute garbage last year. But Peterson looked really bad. He's never been a pass-catching back. That's not going to start now. Maybe he's going to get those touchdowns. I don't know if I want Adrian Peterson starting on my fantasy team when he's getting 10 carries a game and like has a touchdown every other game. I don't know if that's really what I'm looking for. So I'm not really in the market for him as much. Kamara's fine, or Kamara, I forget how you fucking pronounce it, but he's fine in the 13th round. He's a passing down guy, at least to start his career. They do like him apparently, and he's going to get some of that passing down work from Ingram, but that's not going to be, enough to make me shy away from Ingram in general. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Dead on.
All right, cool. Glad we agree on that one. You got anything else for the Saints?
That is it for the Saints. Oh, holy shit, we're done already.
Yeah, we're done with this one, baby. We'll be back with the Panthers and the Bucks for our next podcast. We'll see you guys there for that. Before we go, though, again, check out the draft guide. If you don't have it in your inbox already, go to letstalkfantasyfootball.com. Make sure you get your email in there. We'll send it on out to you. Check out the app on Apple and Android. Check it out with your Amazon Echo. Give us a review on iTunes and subscribe if you don't already. We've been saying start mocking at the end of our podcast, but I mean, it's draft season, baby. You're fucking there. So do a couple more mocks and have yourself a draft. If you're drafting this weekend, best of luck to you. Let us know how it went. Let us know how you like your team. We'll give you our input as well. We're always here to answer questions for you guys. So yeah, Bucks and Panthers coming up next time. For Vinny, I am Walsh. Later, podcast.
This has been Let's Talk Fantasy Football. Thanks for listening.